We can start, Lynn.
Great, fantastic.
Ready.
Thanks for coming today. Let us begin with karakia. Kia hui hui mai. Whakataka te hau ki te uru. Whakataka te hau ki te tonga. Kia mā kine kine ki uta. Kia mā tara tara ki tai. E hi aki ana te atakura. He tiu, he huka, he hunga, tihei muriora. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Well, yeah, like I said, thanks for joining us on Zoom for those who are watching and elected members and staff. Let's just go straight into apologies. I've received apologies from Nigel Harrison. I don't think there's any more from staff, is there?
No, Lynn.
Okay. And moving right along, we're going to have an information session from Fire Emergency Update. We're going to hear from Kiri, if Kiri is online at the moment. It'd be great to hear from you.
Lynn, she hasn't quite arrived yet.
That's okay. We can do a bit of filibustering. Anybody know any good jokes? Sorry. No,
none that are appropriate for this forum, Lynn.
No, understood. Totally understood. I'm just wondering if there's anything else we can report on. Maybe it's like a little elected members update while we're waiting. Tyrone, what have you been up to this weekend? You're dotting around, I see.
I had the rare luxury of not having anything that I had to be at. So I got to do things that I wanted to be at, and there was a really good thing over in Diamond Harbour on Saturday. Just about sustainable communities and lots of different people with different stalls. That was lots of fun, so that was good. Called into that.
Fantastic.
Our guests have arrived, Lynn.
Thank you, Liz. All right, so welcome to Kiri and the team who are going to give us an update on fire and emergency. Fire away, Kiri. The floor is yours.
Apologies, team. We're just having a few slight technical issues because we don't use Zoom very often.
Oh, yeah, no, we know how it is. That's fine.
So thank you very much for inviting us to come along and speak to the community board about pretty much the fire seasons and how we can help our communities prepare for the upcoming fire season. So I'll let Grant introduce himself.
Hi there, I'm Grant Campbell. I'm wildfire investigator and risk reduction advisor. So yeah, I've been doing rural fire for years before I came here. So I'm supposedly know what I'm doing. Supposedly.
Grant is very knowledgeable in our wildfire space. My name is Kiri Pring. I'm a community readiness and recovery advisor for fire and emergency. So my job is pretty much to help the community prepare for anything that could impact them. Fire is included in that. So we've just got a really brief presentation to show you all. By all means, jump in, ask questions. This is very much an interactive kind of thing, so feel free to ask your questions as we go. I haven't used this before around sharing, so you might just have to give me a second. Hang on. Let me just. We probably should have had this slightly more prepared.
Excuse me, Kiri, staff can share it for you and you can just tell us next slide when you're ready.
Well, hopefully, because I think the one that I sent Heather, sorry Heather if you're online, I sent it to you and then I sent you a really quick one because I actually changed it up. So let me know if you guys can all see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can.
Fantastic. Cool. Okay, so this is a very similar presentation to the one that we show our communities out in the areas to help them prepare for their properties for the upcoming fire season. The main issue that we find with our fire appliances is access into properties. That's a big issue that we hear from our crews around the traps, is not being able to actually gain access into people's properties. And the Peninsula is one of those areas where, you know, access is not always great. So having people consider getting, you know, if they can get a stock truck up their driveways, then you can get a fire truck. But, you know, some of those smaller houses, you know, they really do need to think about that a little bit better. Anything you want to add on that one?
No, no. No, it's reasonably obvious when you look at the picture. It's the 4 meters by 4 meters, which sounds ludicrous when you say it. When you see that, you need to realise that the vehicle's got loading bays on the side, so you've got ladders on top. So for them to be able to get into your property and actually do anything when they get there, this is why it's 4 meters by 4 meters by 4 meters. But when you see that picture, it's actually quite surprising how big a hole you need to get a truck into.
And so just comparison, we have actually got, so, you know, we would not be able to fit into that driveway there. We would park outside of it and run hoses into it, but that obviously then delays our response to the emergency. So it's really important that, you know, we have clear access into properties. This one here is sort of the key messages that we want to present to the board today and to the members watching. Defensible spaces around your home is super important, and we have found that across multiple wildfires over many years, including the Port Hills fire, Oho, you know, all of those fires where you know, wildfire encroached into urban spaces. So right,
yeah, people are very keen, and I'm one of the world's biggest offenders for this, planting the wrong things around a house. I've got 10 acres out at West Eaton, and I think I've taken out about 1,000 tussocks out of the grounds, around the grounds lately, because after being at O'Hare and seeing a lot of fires over the years, I've looked at what I've done on my own property and busy rectifying it. So those the clear spaces around your house are very important. Grass, paths, shingles, sort of gardens are a great defence for fires. A lot of stuff we've been doing is low flammability planting as well. So there's a lot of plants that are not good. I'm looking at lots of Kānuka, Mānuka around the Port Hills, as they're very high volatility in terms of flames. And but grass is always a good defence spaces. But there's a whole heap of trees, and the Grisolinias, or broadleaf as we call them, which we've been doing a lot of work on. Your own Paul Devlin is an expert in this field as well. They're doing that around the Port Hills. So what you plant is very important, and what you don't plant too, I should say. The other thing is things like keeping your spoutings clean. One of the things we see on the Port Hills a lot is people that have got a nice elevated balcony to see the view, but then underneath all their firewood supply, and they do all their chopping underneath the house. So yeah, it's a general sort of housekeeping in the most the best sense of the word, really. We've got some documentation. There's plenty of stuff on our website about how to do it. There's rather a good booklet there, which we have a link to.
Mm-hmm.
We have a link to it later. That came about after O'Hare, when we went through the village, and I didn't do where the fire started. I did the village. I did 135 houses through there. Some houses were there, were completely gone, I should say, but there were houses that were still there, and it wasn't until I sort of looked at it and thought about it, and I should know this, I'm the first to admit it, and I was asked the question why those houses were there, and they were purely down to the planting and tidying around the house. So that's why I've sort of been on a bit of a crusade with this stuff since O'Hare. But this stuff's all available, but you can see 0 to 10 metres is around the house, and then take it out to 20 or 30 metres. Bear in mind, I'll show you something shortly about what happens when it's on a slope. That's on a flat. So, yep. This little gem here explains something to you. So I always sort of try to get across to people that live in the hill suburbs. You've got a problem before you've even started. And if you have a look at that flaming thing on the left there, you've got a fire burning up a hill. You've got radiation and heat moving out in front of it. So even if the ground's not that dry, fire going up the hill like that actually dries everything in front of it. So the fire might be burning at the base where that convection word is, but what it actually does is it cooks everything above it. So therefore, it dries its own fuel. So on the right side there, you've got rates of spread. And this is one of the biggest issues, that if you go from flat to 10 degrees slope, you increase the speed of a fire going up the hill by double. If you get a 20 degree slope, it's 4 times. And once you get to 30 degrees slope, the fire's going to go up the hill 6 times faster than it does on the flat. And that's one of the inherent problems with fires on hills. We can't do anything about that. So the planting and the clear zones and your housekeeping around your houses on hills is a much bigger problem, and but much bigger benefit. So we try and get people to keep that in mind, that's one of the most important things to do, is bear that little picture in mind. There are places where I've said to people, if you want to make yourself totally safe, move is about the only way you're going to get rid of it. And it's a bit blunt and a bit horrible, but that's the facts of life. So the best you can do is do some of the techniques that are in our handouts about keeping clear spaces around your house.
Cool. So I did keep this. I was going to take this slide out, but then I thought no, because I know that a lot of people that live in Banks Peninsula are very concerned about the ecological impacts of various different things, because we've got a beautiful native area across the hills there. So I did want to keep this in just to show that we are starting to use fire retardants a lot more to stop an approaching wildfire. So we used it in the Port Hills, and this summer, if we do have any large-scale wildfires, we will probably use it again. It is completely safe. It effectively is just a fertilizer, but we do try and avoid sensitive areas like waterways, organic farms, or dock preservation areas. We will work with DOC, we will work with ECAN before we lay the fire retardant, just to gain everyone's approval of it before we do lay it. But if anyone ends up with it on their property themselves, they can just wash it off with some water. It is completely safe. There are no toxins in it.
Just note that this is one of the things that can be used before a fire gets to your property. So what that helicopter's, what that fixed wing's doing there is dropping the phosphate chemical, but that will stop a fire when it gets to it, instead of going down the other way and waiting until your house catches fire. They're trying to drop water on it. So bear that in mind. It's one of the things you can actually do to stop the fires spreading.
Obviously, fire permits and fire seasons are it's a question that we get asked often by the communities. Sometimes people think that we just look out the window and go, oh, the grass is brown, it must be time to go to a restricted fire season or a prohibited fire season. If anyone follows our social media pages, you will often see people asking and telling us that we are stupid for not having a prohibited fire season in place earlier. However, it actually works on lots of different scientific weather indices, and we have triggers into our fire plans, which are publicly available. Our fire plans are publicly available on our website. So we have triggers that it must meet before we can go into a restricted or a prohibited fire season, and vice versa, working through our way back towards an open season. We have had issues. We recently imposed what we call a Section 52 prohibiting activities in the outdoor area. So we prohibited fires recently due to the fire in Waipara. We did find that that was quite hard to publicise. It was only going to be a week-long prohibition, but we did find that that was quite hard to publicise. So we really kind of put it out to our communities to try and educate themselves and educate each other on that. So we like to try and see it pushed out into our community Facebook pages. So that's something that we're going to try and work on with all the different councils as well, is getting them on board to help push our messages. Our website, Check It's Alright, is probably the most amazing website we actually have. It does have a few flaws. When we do change to a new season, it does take 24 hours to update. But people can go on, they can type in their address, and it will literally give you a 3-day forecast and tell you whether or not today is a good day to burn or if tomorrow is a better day. So it's a really good website. It's a really good tool to use for people to check that it's actually okay to light a fire. Again, we do have a few teething problems. So if people do find those, just there's usually a help link down the bottom. Feed that feedback all the way through so that we can make it better. Anything on that?
No, you did well.
It would be remiss of us not to talk about inside home fire safety as well. So making sure that all properties have working smoke alarms, photoelectric 10-year lifelong alarms are the way to go. It means that you can literally put the smoke alarm up on the ceiling, don't have to really worry about it for 10 years. Obviously do the standard checks every 6 months or every daylight savings. And then in 10 years' time, it will start to chirp away and tell you that it needs to be replaced. So they're the best ones to get. In our kitchens, bathrooms, or garages, we do encourage heat alarms, which are different to smoke alarms. They work on temperature rather than smoke. So encourage people to get those in their thing. If anyone needs any help, you need any assistance in whether or not you're getting the right smoke alarms, or if you need assistance and you're not sure where to place them in your house, we can come around and do a free home fire safety check. So everyone's entitled to that, where we can discuss where the best place to put them up, and we can even put them up for you if that's what you require. Yep. And just lastly, the last sort of hot topic is evacuations during wildfires. So we engage with the New Zealand Police when we deem that an area needs to be evacuated. They undertake the evacuations, and then we work with Civil Defence, whichever council we're working with, to then place those people into evacuation centres or just welfare centres, depending on how long we think the fire is going to go for. So we've just got a bit of information there on what people should take with them. But what we really sort of encourage people is to get out quickly, so that it allows us to continue our operations, because there are certain things we can't do while people are still in their homes, such as undertake helicopter operations over houses that have people in them. So we need to evacuate people sometimes so that we can actually carry out different fire attack. And then there's just a little bit down the bottom there about if you have stock on your property, which obviously a lot of the Peninsula will. So just letting, as you leave, letting either police or stopping in at the incident control point with fire. If you've got, tell any fire truck you can see or anything that you've got stock on your land, and then we'll organise with MPI and the council's animal control to take care of the animals while you're evacuated. And so then Grant was mentioning the Wildfire Safer Housing Guide. So this came out of the Lake Oho fire. So we can provide a link to this. It is on our website, on our public website. So people can, if they're looking at building or if they're looking at landscaping, doing large landscaping projects around their house, they can have a look at this guide, and it will literally talk them through how to build or how to have a property in an area that is prone to wildfire. happy for you guys. So I've sent this presentation to Heather. So happy for you to put this out publicly for your constituents.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. I know we'll just have questions because you're right. It is a concern for Banks Peninsula residents, and there is that, extra difficulty with it being on hills and one way in sometimes. I was very interested to see about the size of the entranceway needed for the fire truck. It makes a whole lot of sense just seeing that with my eyes rather than thinking, right, my driveway, for example, would it go down my driveway? And that there's obviously something that is really important to get out to people. I guess while others are thinking about their questions, I'll just ask, we can share this information publicly, which is great. What other ways can we help to support you getting this message out?
Last year, we attended quite a few community meetings and shared this information with people in person. And we are more than happy to come out and do so again if any community wants this information. We will make ourselves available to pop out day, night, weekend. It doesn't matter to us. And yeah.
We've done a lot of those community meetings which are organised, but from those meetings we picked up a lot of like streets or just smaller communities or a group of houses that wanted some more explanation. They wanted some guides on planting. So I do a lot of those things. I'll go and see one person, or I'll go and see 3 or 4 neighbours or a street, or I'll go to a neighbourhood watch group or something. So we're still doing a lot of that, and more than happy to do it anytime. So the public can be quite confident if they want something, or come and do it, because that's pretty much the most enjoyable part of what I do. I do a lot of fire investigations when it all goes bad, but it's actually nice to go and have a look at people's properties. It's all very well giving a bit of a PowerPoint display here, but to go and actually go to a site and wander through some properties and say, this is good, that's bad, this can be, it's actually really quite cool doing that. So more than happy to do that on any occasion.
Fantastic. That's really good to know. Thank you. Has anybody got their virtual hand up, or if they can't find their virtual hand, then just speak out?
Kia ora, I'll jump in. Thank you, Lynn. Kia ora korua, thank you both for that. That was really interesting. I was just thinking about the access for properties, and I know, sometimes there's an issue on hilly sites, but I've noticed with new builds, especially in the city, that there's no way that a fire appliance would get down those driveways. Is it part of the consenting process, do you know, to have access onto a property?
No. Short answer is it's not. So yes, I know in some areas it is quite hard for the fire trucks. Littleton's a great example of areas where the streets are so narrow that our fire trucks do struggle, because people park on the roadside because they don't have driveways, or they can't park up their driveways. So again, every delay that we get could be somebody's life. So it is something that we do struggle with, but unfortunately it's not part of the consenting process.
Okay, thank you.
Just while we're on that subject, just to allay your fears a wee bit, is that the appliances are also a pumping device, and they can be connected to a hydrant down the road, and then they can relay the water. So don't think that nothing can happen if the truck can't get up the driveway. So just bear that in mind, especially if you've got a bigger property. Yeah, that's a good idea. If you've got a bigger property and you actually got to get further down, it makes it difficult and a bit slower as well. But don't think it cuts the water off totally, because there are ways and means. That's the most efficient way and the best way, but there are other ways.
Thank you. It's good to hear.
Anybody else wanting to ask a question?
I do. If I can go. Cool. Kia ora. Thank you for that. It's It's great to know that you guys are like going out and talking to community groups, and I imagine you probably talk to lots around the peninsula. I think one of the things that we often get from people, one of the concerns is like the big stands of pine trees that we have sort of all over the peninsula. I don't, I mean, I'm no expert. I don't know if they're any worse or any better. I imagine pine trees are worse than the natives, as in terms of combustion. But is there any sort of specific work you're doing with groups around the peninsula on particular stands of pine trees, or is that something that you do look quite closely at? And if I got a whole bunch of different groups saying, please come and look at this, that's something that you do?
I'll answer that one.
Well, the fires don't
very
start
long-winded.
in pine trees is the normal thing. Pine trees are usually the victim of a fire from outside. So pine trees in themselves don't start fires. So just bear that in mind. It's like the portals is a classic example where you get a fire start wherever it starts. It's people that start fires 99% of the time. And so if it gets into the trees, it will burn. Pine trees burn, as you say. We can't avoid that. It's not our legislation that deals with that. The thing about the natives is the ones that we've got on our low flammability list have been tested, and they vary from your grizzlinias, which really don't burn, to your Kānuka, Mānuka, which is endemic to the council are planting them around Robinson's Bay at the moment, for instance, in terms of their wastewater, putting 30,000, and they're much more flammable than pine trees. So, where do you go with that argument? But using the right species on the right place, keeping some clear spaces, as I said, with that sloping diagram there before, your housekeeping, there's all the ways in which people can protect themselves. That's more what we're focused on, is actually providing information and the assistance to do that. But the pine trees, that's another issue. But pine trees don't just cause a fire. That's what I'm saying.
I think it's really important too that if the pine trees are there commercially, often they will be maintained. So most commercial operations make sure that there's clear space between the floor of the forest and about 2 meters. About 2 meters? 1.5?
No, I wouldn't agree. No, I think the good old days when they used to prune trees and you got lovely straight pine trees. That fire we had at Waipara the other day was the cleanest one I've seen in 28 years, and the fire burnt straight underneath them, and the trees are all fine still, but they don't do it since the advent of chipping for MDF, fiberboard and things like those. They don't tend to prune trees now. They just, because the whole lot goes through a big muncher. So it's things have changed in the forestry world. But the port. There's been a lot of discussion, obviously, about McVickers on the portals and their trees, but we must sort of agree with McVickers that none of the fires that have been, well, another 2 fires have actually started in their forest. They've burned into the forest. So,
sorry, can I just ask a follow-up, Lynn?
Yeah, one quick one. We've got our next guests online. So
because that was a really good answer, and there's lots of very interesting stuff in there. And you actually anticipated another question that I had, which was about the Kānuka being planted over in Robinson's Bay, and your thoughts on that.
It's quite funny because I was just looking at it before I came in here, responding to a question from the City Council about it, and I'm going to go and have a look, put it this way, but when I look at the aerial photos from what we've got, without having a closer look at the topography, there's a lot of grass around it, and if it's maintained in the location it is for the disposal, and then there is still the option about planting lower flammability species around the outside as a green fire break. Now, the fire break, the low concept of low flammability is actually a fire break, and it comes from the teachings of Tim Curran at Lincoln University, who's done a lot of testing, And that's based on stuff in China where the commercial forests over there are, thousands of hectares, and they're divided up like a big chessboard when you see them from above, and they have green fire breaks, through the trees and around them. So, if there was concern about the Kānuka being a danger to the residents, as part of the planting process, they can plant some low flammability stuff around the outside. I get the discussion quite a bit because I've also got a dock background as well, which is where my rural fire started years ago. So I've got a bit of a soft spot for both sides of the argument there. And I've done stuff in the reserves around Littleton, and obviously Kānuka species are endemic and they're part of the process, part of the natural process in those reserves. And I don't say don't put them in. If you want to keep a balanced biodiversity sort of system happening there, you put those trees in anyway. And but you plant them amongst other stuff. You could get around the same system if you're going to have solid planting by putting the lower flammability species around the outside. So it's not, I don't feel too upset about the concept of 30,000 plants or whatever I read before, if they're done in the right manner. And that's what I was sort of interested about before. And I've done a lot of work with Paul Devlin, and
oh no, this is really good. No, don't hurry up, because this is fascinating. Please, honestly.
No. Look, Paul,
I'm not chairing the meeting.
Paul's done some amazing stuff around the Port Hills where he's got mixes of trees, and there's places where it hasn't worked and fire's gone through because of the weeds weren't removed from them. But when you see his good stuff, it is effective. So going back to the Robinson's Bay thing, the species that are going to grow well there, because that's where they usually live, they will soak up nutrients and moisture that's going to be sprayed on them. So there was ways and means to sort of make it a safe area in terms of fires.
Okay, no, that's really, really awesome information. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely. I echo that. That's very, very interesting, and obviously a lot of experience has been proven helpful here. Thank you, Kerry. Thank you, Grant. I really appreciate your time and your experience. And we will definitely, I'm going to look that up to find the link so that we can share that, and maybe just ask elected members to put that out into our networks as well. It's an important thing that our communities need to know about and keep learning about as well. So I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Always available.
Cheers. Appreciate it. Bye.
Thank you.
Awesome. So I see that we've got Claire and Angus there. Thank you for your patience. I appreciate it. Today you're going to be talking to us about 177 Pūrau Ave.
Morena board, can you hear me? It's Claire.
Yes, I can.
Can you see me?
Yes.
Angus is going to help answer any questions, waving in the corner there. Just to let you know, I'm a little bit under the weather, so I apologise if I start coughing through this. And I believe Heather's going to share the slides for me, so I don't stuff it up pretty much. Lovely. So the purpose of today's discussion with you is to share a summary of what the public consultation for the proposal to revoke the reserve status and return the land for 177 Pūrau Ave to Ngāti Wheke, to share a summary of what the public consultation will cover, but more importantly, to understand if there's anything in our questioning that we aren't asking that you would like us to ask in order for you to be able to make a decision as the hearings panel in January. The presentation will provide a reminder of the purpose for the consultation and the tactics we're using, and an overview of the information that will be made available to the public, including the questions that we'll be asking. Next slide, please, Heather. So as a reminder, we're governed by 2 acts here for the consultation. The first one being the Local Government Act, which is to understand the communities and interested parties' views of the proposal. And the second one under the Reserves Act to provide an opportunity for community and interested parties to submit an official submission or objection on the proposal. Next slide, please. Thank you. So as a reminder, the tactics that we'll be using is a consultation page on Kōrero Mai, Let's Talk, public notification in the local paper, direct mail to the absentee owners, and a letterbox drop. emails to previous participants of the 2017-18 conversation, face-to-face meetings with the Pūreo residents group, so that'll be on Saturday this week, and the Diamond Harbour Reserves Committee, which will be on Monday next week. We'll also provide opportunity to meet face-to-face with local runanga on request. I'll also be the contact person for any other requests to meet face-to-face. And the consultation will open on the Thursday, the 3rd of October, and run for 2 months until Sunday, the 1st of December. Next slide, please, Taylor. So the information overview of what we'll be providing online is the proposal as it's been outlined in your reports. We'll also be sharing a chronological account of historical events, correspondence, land mapping, and more recently, archaeological mapping for the community to view. The timeline is an amalgamation of council records, information from Ngāti Wheke, and historical documents that a community member shared with staff when they attained from Archives New Zealand. It provides a timeline of information stretching from 1838 until today, and it's quite an interesting read when you put it all together. It includes documents from the Ministry of Māori Affairs, the Mount Herbert County Council, Christchurch City Council, Land and Survey, and Ngāti Wheke as well. So it's quite a comprehensive read. We're also including the options that were considered for the protection and management of the land, and links to the draft Coastal Hazards Adaptation Plan engagement site once that goes live in mid-October, which will also provide information around the effects of coastal adaptation on Pūreo. Next slide, please, Heather. So as a reminder, the options considered, there's 4 options that we'll provide information on in the consultation materials. For each option will be outlining their advantages and their disadvantages. Excuse me, Matt. Apologies. 3 of the options you are already familiar with. The preferred option to revoke the reserve status and return the lands to Ngāti Wheke, and the other 2 which were outlined in your reporting, which is reclassify as historic and retaining council ownership or do nothing. We've decided to add a 4th option of reclassify as historic and establish a co-governance group in response to feedback that was received in earlier discussions and deputations from some community members that you heard earlier this year. Staff have considered this option and still feel that the preferred option of revoking the reserve status and returning to the hapu is more appropriate, but we'll still provide information on the consultation page as to the advantages and disadvantages of the historic reserve, reclassifying as historic and establishing a co-governance group. Next slide, please, Heather. So the questions that we'll be asking come down to 3, very simple but very important. First and foremost, do you support the proposal to revoke the reserve status and return the land? And if the community answer yes, we'll ask them to tell us in their own words why. And if they answer no, we'll ask them, what do you not like about the proposal? What I need to understand from you, and again, this is the end of the presentation itself, but what I'd like to understand from you is if there's anything else that you would like us to find out in this consultation that we need to build into it before we go live. Angus, was there anything that you wanted to add as part of our presentation?
No, I think that covers it off.
So I'll throw it back to the team.
All right. So I'm just looking for hands up, but if you can't do that, then just start speaking. So I've got my hand in front of the camera here. Tyrone's got his hand up.
Oh, I didn't think I'd be first. That's cool. So thank you. What do I want to say? Just a couple of things. So like on slide 6, the question that will be asked. So do we support the proposal? If yes, if no, I'm just wondering, and I don't want to be like wordsmith person here, but like, what don't you like about the proposal feels quite leading to me. It's more, I sort of feel like we should be asking people, you know, what are your, what's your point? If no, what's your point of view on that, rather than what don't you like? Like, I just, yeah, that's quite a, is basically saying, if you say no, it's because you don't like the proposal. And it's, yeah, it just feels like it's quite leading and sort of pigeonholing.
So we can rework the wording, not a problem. But the purpose of putting it that way was to get a really good understanding of what is it that isn't supported, so that we can give you a full report back when we get to the hearings panel of what is it about it that the community aren't supportive of, if it's part of or if it's all.
I mean, I might just be overthinking this. I mean, I'm just interested to what my fellow board members think on that at all, if anybody's got a view.
Yeah, I think it's important to get a clear understanding of where people are coming from, and I see what you're saying as well, Tyrone. But
I mean, it wouldn't be the first time I've overthought something, Lynn. That's all, you know. So I'm just throwing it out there.
No, it's good to go through this process and ask these questions. I think definitely. But I'm happy to hear people's reasonings, because it asks, are you happy? So if you're happy, you're like, sweet as. But if you're unhappy, you will have reasons. And I understand if it is a bit vague, we're not going to understand what those issues are to even maybe, I don't know, discuss those more, or have some more learning around it.
Yeah, I mean, at least it's quite straight up, isn't it? So that's sorry, I don't mind it from that perspective.
Yeah, is there something else specifically that we need to be wary of there, Tyrone?
No, not really. I just, just sort of, it just immediately struck me as to say it's like either I like it or I don't like it, but there's kind of a lot in between.
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
There, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I can't put my hand up. I don't know. I can't seem to do anything on this computer, but yeah, I would go with Tyrone. That I mean, and when anyone makes submissions on, say, resource consents and things like that, you can partially support things. So there's definitely middle ground there, and I think it's good to give people that option. I can't see that it would do any harm giving them that option. And yeah, I think at first I thought, oh no, it's not a leading question saying what don't you like about it, but there are different nuances there. Like someone might not support it, and we want to know their reasons, but they might not want to give them. And yeah, so
yeah, that's a good point actually, Gillian, as well. Yeah.
So
that might be reluctant.
What do you suggest, Gillian, was the middle ground?
Well, I did say, are you in partial support?
And you suggest maybe, was there any part of the proposal that you did support?
You could say that. Yep. Are there, parts that you do support or parts that you don't support? I don't know, not having thought about it a whole lot, but
I'd add to that I've never ever met, sorry, Gillian, just very quickly, like I've never ever met anybody who straight up didn't like who straight up didn't like the proposal at all. There's so many kind of levels of what parts that people like and parts that they're kind of concerned about. But yeah, I've never met anybody that straight up didn't wasn't supportive on some level.
Yeah, and I think there's other consultation that could be used as guidance for this kind of for getting reactions from people. Yeah.
Okay, so we're thinking we would like to encourage a little bit of more subtlety and hearing. It's neither here nor there, but the ones who are like in the middle ground, as was mentioned. So I guess we've brought up an interesting point there. Can we give you any more input about how we could potentially word that, or do you want to come back to us, Claire? How do we do that?
I think we'll go away and have a think about that with Angus further and with my team, and then I'll probably just provide that via an email to the board, I think. Yeah.
Just as long as we're getting the information we still need,
yes,
but maybe even provide a wider of view is probably what I'm hearing from elected members we're wanting to hear, is perhaps a wider view. Is that right, team?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Some sort of an open-ended question that they will have an input.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, got a question here. Yeah.
Yes, go ahead, Asif.
Yep. Thank you, Claire and Angus. I really like that extra option that you have added, and it would be interesting to know that how that proposal, the details of that proposal, that how the co-management would work, whether we will be looking at the same principle as Takapuniki or some other sort of proposal. Yeah, thank you for that. Two questions in terms of advertising. When you advertise, are you planning to advertise through social media as well as, and give an opportunity for people to submit a written submission instead of just an online links to the submission?
So yes, to answer that, no, we will not be promoting this through social media at this point in time. We will be directly contacting Pūrao residents who are our most impacted community here. And then Te Hapu and Ngāti Whiki will also share it through their networks with their hapu. In terms of providing opportunity for written feedback, we do that all the time. So there's opportunity to upload documents on the consultation site as free form. So you write a letter, it can be uploaded. You can also email that through to letstalk@ccc.gov.nz. So if the community member who is providing feedback feels that the online submission form doesn't work for them, there are other opportunities of how they can provide their feedback to us, which will be included in the submissions.
Yeah, thank you for that. And in terms of collecting the data, this is going to be a qualitative type of data you're collecting. So how would you weigh the various options? Are you going to follow some?
So remember,
sort of
we're not
asking
options. We are asking the community if they support the preferred the proposal to revoke the land status and return the land to the hapu. We're not asking what option they prefer. We've made a recommendation as staff to you of the option that is most appropriate, and that's what we'll be asking the community for their feedback on.
Okay, and you're hoping that whatever information you may receive, other than the options you have provided, will fall into one of those categories. Either they are supporting or they're not supporting.
So the information that they will provide us will tell us whether or not they support the proposal to revoke the reserve status and return the land to Te Hapu Ngāti Whiki. We are not asking for feedback on the other options that were considered by staff and deemed not appropriate.
So there will be one group of a community they support and some don't support and some have no idea. Where would they sit?
No idea. We can ask them if they're not sure. That's not a problem.
There will be an option that will be included in your report when you present that.
We can do that, yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
I see Luana and Tyrone have got their hands up. We'll go Luana first and then Tyrone.
Kia ora, thank you. I don't know if I'm actually supposed to declare conflict of interest or if I'm able to ask questions.
You're able to ask questions, Luana, because we're talking about consultation.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Liz. Thank you. I guess I come from it from a different side. I'm part of Ngāti Whiki, and when the word return to Ngāti Whiki is proposed, it implies that it once was in, I suppose, under the rohe or within control of Rāpaki. I would just like to, I guess, state that I hope that people make a determination based on the facts, so that historical narrative of what has happened with that reserve is shared with everybody so that they are able to make an informed decision about what is best to do in this instance. And I just wanted to know, the fourth proposal, has that been shared with Ngāti Whiki at the moment at all, or is that? And it has, thank you.
It has. We also asked them to review each of the options and provide comment on whether or not they support them. They are prepared to publicly state they don't support the other 3 options.
Okay then. Thank you. Thank you, Claire.
Tyrone, it's your turn.
Oh yeah, cool. Yeah, actually, just to follow on from that, just about the new option that's popped up. So, is there a? I mean, the classic one that people refer to as, say, oh, it's like takapuniki. We could do a co-governance situation like that. Is it like takapuniki? Is it comparable, or is it just a completely different situation?
Angus, I might ask you to step in for a second as well. My understanding is this is not the same as takapuniki, without having an in-depth knowledge of that case. What I do know in recent conversations with representatives from Ngāti Wheki, and we'll be publicly saying this, is that whilst there are spaces within the South Island that have historical status put on them for management of sites that are important to the Runanga, that is because through the Treaty of Waitangi process, that was the only type of status that could be put on land to give it some sort of protection. Ideally, the hapu would like a new type of protection that is not classed as historical, because historical doesn't enable the most appropriate protection of inappropriate activities to happen on land. So by classifying 177 Pūrau as historical, that doesn't give the land the protections that the hapu would like in terms of it being having either on it or nearby it in urupā. And takapuniki, if I've got this right, and Angus step in if I haven't, is classed as historical, but for the hapu, that even that is not the best protection for those types of sites. It's just what they had legally available to them at the time.
Wonderful. That's really interesting, and thank you. Yeah. To what level can that be kind of outlined in the consultation document?
I have been working with representatives from Ngāti Wheki and Ngāi Tahu, and they have provided direction on statements around that. So we will be making it publicly. We'll be making a public statement on that under the options as to why historical was not appropriate enough.
It sort of begs the question as to why we would go out with that option then?
We're not going out with that option. What we're doing is sharing all of the options that were considered by staff.
Oh, okay. Yep, that's fair enough.
What we're going out with is the proposal to revoke the reserve status and return the land as the preferred option.
No, thank you. That's really, really, really helpful.
It's just about being like very clear and transparent to the community about everything that we've been looking at.
No, that's wicked. Awesome. Thank you. Cheers.
Kathy's got a hand up there. Oh, sorry, Gillian, I didn't realise. So we'll go Kathy first and then you, Gillian.
All right.
Oh, is that me? Sorry. Hi.
Yes, Kathy.
Yeah, I was just thinking of all the questions and that, and the first thing we said is, what do you think? And I just feel the word think and feel, it's such a deep emotional issue or topic, or I just feel it just deserves a lot more meaning and emotion to it. It's not just a piece of land that you will say yes or no to. So I just wanted to add to that.
Thank you.
Gillian, fire away.
Okay, I just wanted to ask about the consultation that's I think being requested, and that's why it's happening, that Pūrau on the 28th and Diamond Harbour Reserves Committee on the 30th. And I'm not sure, somebody can remind me whether we already know the details of that or not, and also whether it would be appropriate for us to go, or some of us, or whoever wants to go really, to go to some of those meetings, either of those meetings. Yeah.
For the Pūrā Residents Association meeting on the 28th, Angus and I will be attending. That is prior to consultations. Well, they're both prior to consultation starting. So what they will do is share the process with the residents group that we're undertaking and the timeline. They're not to share all of the information. That'll happen from the 3rd of October when we go public with the consultation. The Diamond Harbour Reserves Committee again will be to present the the process which we need to undertake, and give them enough time as a committee to deliberate on the information and then come back together prior to the consultation ending to determine how they may like to submit a feedback. I believe they've got a meeting in November, which I would assume is when they would come back together and determine what they wanted to put through as formal feedback.
It would be fair to say, Claire, that they're not public meetings, that we're going there as invitees to talk to them about the process.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it sounds like that, because the other part of my question was about whether any of us would go or were welcome to come, but sounds like maybe the answer is no, probably better not to.
Well,
I believe so.
Yeah, and I don't believe Claire and I are in a position to invite or endorse other people going to that meeting. That would be up to both of those groups.
Yeah, and I'll just check with our staff too about the wisdom of that consent, considering we're the hearings panel and supposed to have no interest and come to the table hearing all the information and taking that into account. Staff, have you got any other advice on that?
I'd advise, Madam Chair, that board members, as you're going to be part of the hearings panel, that you do not attend public forums on this subject. You need to go to the hearings panel table with an open mind to listen to all the submissions and not have any predetermination before you get to the table.
Predetermination, that's the one I was trying to find. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. It's good to clear up and good to know. Thanks.
Great. Do we have any more questions for Claire and Angus at this stage? Because I'm sure there'll be more later. Let me see.
No, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, just to say thanks for the work that you're doing on this. It's not easy, and it's very greatly appreciated.
Yes, definitely. And all of the ways that you're going to be engaging with the community by the webpage, notice in mailboxes, notice in the paper, face-to-face, email. It's just, there's so many different options. Excuse me. So many different options there. So that's really encouraging to see. Thank you. And also, Claire, thanks for coming and talking to us when you're not well. You did great. Thank you. And Angus, yeah, be a good backstop there. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good day.
Okay.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Right, unless staff tell me that there's somebody else who's wanting to talk about anything or anything that's come in the last minute. Oh, look, there's the karakia has popped up, so that's telling me no. Let's go with that then. Kia hui hui mai. Ona hia ki te uru tapanui. Kia wātia, kia mama, te nākau. Te tinana te wairua e te ara takata. Ko ia rā e rongo. Whakaeria ake ki runga. Ke tina, huie, taikie. Thank you, team. Now, if you elected members can stay online while we confirm that the line